One Piece chapter 1055 is out, and we're quickly moving on because there's too much that we gotta talk about today. Hello, and welcome to Big News, where we bring you all the latest scoop on all things One Piece. We started the chapter by seeing Nami celebrating with Tama and Zeus, but we're quickly moving on from that because this panel here only serves one purpose, and that is to show us that the people inside the Flower Capital are blissfully unaware of everything that's going on right outside of the Flower Capital with Green Bull, except for a few people that will talk about that more towards the end of the chapter. So even though it may seem pointless, it does serve a purpose, but there's not much worth commenting on aside from that. Moving on, we briefly cut right back into the fight versus Green Bull, and we see the Scabbards, namely Raizo, trying to counterattack with fire since he is a forest man after all, and Ryukyugu is completely unfazed by it. In fact, he even makes it a point by stating that such an obvious weakness wouldn't work on him. Now, to me, this statement isn't just showing how formidable the admirals are, but as we are all constantly saying, Oda is aware of what the fanbase talks about. I'm extremely sure that Oda is fully aware that the community has been saying that one of the reasons why Sabo and the revolutionaries escaped is because Sabo is such a hard counter to Green Bull. But Oda is getting a message across here, and that is that this here man is fully prepared to deal with fire. And this is a thing that Oda loves to do. He loves to add nuances to this kind of things, to keep the mystery alive and to stir up conversations. But it seems like Oda is getting across that the Revolutionary Army's W at Marijois was no fluke. Because last chapter, some people seem to take Tensei's comment of the Admiral being held back because they were fighting in the Holy Land as Oda confirming that this normally wouldn't happen. But by the same token, Akainu responds by saying that there's no excuse. Now, you could argue that this is just within his character, and I wouldn't disagree. But Oda choosing to keep so many things off screen lately, why bring this up if it serves no purpose? Particularly the no excuse part on Akainu's words. This seems to me like it's Oda basically saying, I know what y'all are trying to say, and that's just not it. Because if that's not the purpose, then narratively speaking, this dialogue here on Akainu's part serves no purpose. So this is already 2 times that we see 2 excuses that the community has brought forth before being mentioned or directly addressed at the chapter and being written off as not excusable. Now this next scene is as hype as it can get for the lore and geography freaks out there. We cut right back to Robin and Sukiyaki, and now lies with them too. Sukiyaki then proceeds to show them the secret entrance that goes underground and assured them that he did not say anything to Kaido and his men, but they were still able to find it due to Jack being a fishman. To which Robin wonders why being a fishman would help in this scenario, only to discover that they were so deep underground that they were underwater. The revelation that we get here is absolutely incredible because apparently Wano's Atlantis. Wano basically is Atlantis. A long time ago, during the Void Century more or less, or right afterwards, Wano was a massive country, like even bigger than it is now, about 3 times as big as it is now apparently. So what happened is that they built some massive walls, which that is what leads me to believe that this was right after the Void Century, because these walls were probably made specifically to keep the world government out. At least that's what seems to be obvious to me. But the rain accumulated within the walls and started to flood the entire country, which led the people of Wano to migrate and establish the current Wano around the base of Mount Fuji. So it turns out that those waterfalls that people have to cross coming into Wano, like the one that Luffy and the Straw Hats and Big Mom had to go up through, those waterfalls are a result of the flooding of the old nation of Wano. And that is just awesome. But we haven't even gotten to the best part yet. Sukiyaki takes into a secret room where we find the subscribe button.
Got him!
I'm just playing with y'all. But for real though, do hit that subscribe button and help me get to next year's Reverie, because that is my goal. I need your guys' help to get my name out there so that next year in the Reverie, I can be out there with the rest of the content creators just talking about One Piece and smack talking power scalers and all that good stuff. Drop a like, click that notification bell. Y'all know what to do. But anyways, Sukiyaki takes us into a secret room where we find the Roadponeglyph. And with that, we are officially just 1 Roadponeglyph away from locating Laugh Tale, which is just... With these recent stream of chapters, the end of One Piece actually feels tangible and within sight. 2 out of 2 chapters in the final saga really are cementing that this is the final saga. But hold on, because it gets even crazier than that. Because as it turns out, in order to retrieve Pluton, the borders of Wano have to be destroyed, which will leave the country defenseless and will leave Pluton vulnerable to be taken. And Odin knew about this, to which Robin is shocked because she wonders if this is going to leave Wano in such a desperate state. Why would Odin want to open the borders? To which Sukiyaki alludes that it must be something that he learned in his voyages. Although these weren't his exact words, that's the implication. Because we have to remember that at first, Odin desired for he himself to leave Wano, and it was only after his voyages with Roger and Whitebeard that he now wants to open the borders of Wano. We obviously know that this has to be related to the One Piece, but it feels like Pluton has a very specific purpose that's not just, oh my gosh, this weapon is so strong, we can use it against the Navy. Because to me personally, I feel like this is someone alludes to the popular theory about the One Piece being the destruction of the Red Line, taking down the Holy Land, destroying Fishman Island, and forming all blue in the process. Most of you guys have heard this theory before, and if you haven't, shout out to Mr. Morge for bringing this theory more into the public, despite it not being his own, but he did add on to it and give us a good presentation of it. His video is going to be in the description down below. The reason why I feel like this alludes to that is because the destruction of the Red Line, I feel like, symbolizes freedom, which is the core of both the series and this particular arc more than anything. It gives Pluton a very specific purpose that's not just, ooh, ship go boom boom, island go bye bye. It just feels right, I guess. But hey, I don't know. You guys let me know how you feel about that in the comments. We're moving on though. We bounce back to the flower capital. Green Bull is going crazy. He's got Yamato and the Scabbards tangled up, although we can assume that Yamato did not struggle because of Mononosuke's request. But either ways, they're all in danger. Yamato's trying to convince Mononosuke to ask Luffy and the others for help, but Mononosuke denied her request and asked her to stop trying to persuade him. Now this is where the rest of the chapter gets juicy. Mononosuke's reasoning for denying her and Luffy's help is because Yamato has been locked away her whole life, and he does not wish to keep her from setting sail and being free. And he makes it a point that he cannot rely on the Straw Hats or Yamato for help in the future, because they won't be here. To me, this scene solidified Yamato as a member of the Straw Hats. I never had any doubt about it, but I did understand the points around some of the discussion as to why she wouldn't join. But I think this scene makes it near impossible for Oda to go against his own themes and have Yamato stay behind. She is free, and Oda is making a point that staying behind to protect Wano would be taking away her freedom. And upon reading these pages, I am rejoicing. But hold up, we're not done yet, because this chapter is the gift that keeps on giving. In a fit of desperation, Momo unleashes an actual Bodo Breath and does some decent damage on Green Bull from what we can tell. Now, a lot of people are going to give yet another L to the Admirals, and even though I do agree that this is definitely a big L, I don't think it's as bad as people think. Yes, it's just Momo. Yes, it's an Admiral. But monsters being born so naturally is nothing new to One Piece. Just think of Big Mom, right? And even though Momo is not a monster in the same sense, his devil fruit really is. So to me, this makes sense, because it's not like Momo stomped Green Bull. He just caught him by surprise with an extremely powerful attack that comes from his devil fruit and not his own, as I think he would have done with almost anyone. And Green Bull was just about to probably stomp him, but that's when it happened. Black lightning in the distance. An Admiral of the Navy is literally paralyzed and screaming at the feeling of this Haki and presence. All the way from the seas near Wano, Shanks sends a message clear as day. From miles and miles away, not only can Green Bull feel Shanks' Haki, but his own crew had to beg him to stop because the newcomers couldn't take it, and Green Bull is absolutely crapping his pants. And it seems like he's actually communicating with Green Bull, similar to how Luffy communicated with Momonosuke when he was knocked out. I really hope Oda delves into this because Shanks is very clearly knew what Green Bull was doing and to whom, and their dialogue seems to be very direct responses to one another and not some kind of vague thing as if they were thinking out loud. It really gave that sense that they were actively talking to each other. Now, let's talk about agendas, because just like last week, in fact, I'd say more so, the agendas are much stronger this week. Green Bull did not want the smoke. Green Bull choked on the smoke. Green Bull took a whiff of the smoke and dipped. What's the smoke? Red hair's the smoke. I know this has always been a hot topic, but more so recently with Brago's and King of Lightning's videos discussing the topic, but I think this chapter cemented that the difference between the Yonkos and the Admirals is in fact significant and not as small as some might think. I think Akainu potentially being the only exception. Let's put this into perspective. Green Bull states that he would not have come if Kaido still ruled, and as soon as another emperor shows up, Green Bull is, what seems to be very obvious to me, and probably most people that read this chapter, completely outclassed. Usually there's an excuse for admirals to avoid confrontation with a Yonko, but this time around, Green Bull is okay with committing genocide, so he doesn't need to protect civilians. Shanks is in fact a wanted man, and this chapter cements that he is not playing on both sides, and Green Bull is in as good as a position as anyone could be to bring down a man like him. Shanks outright challenged him and he backs down. The hockey was so intense that for an admiral it made him scream and paralyzed briefly. This is the single greatest hockey feat that we have seen in the entire verse. And if Kaido's words are credible, like we've all taken it so far, he said that hockey is the way that Roger brought the world to its knees, and that only hockey can transcend all. And here we have Shanks exhibiting what is definitely the best hockey that we have seen up to date in the entire story. I don't know, but this seems... emphasis on seems to solidify Shanks at the pinnacle of the One Piece world. But we'll have to save this discussion for another video. And that video is coming. Hopefully next week, if not the week after that, right? We cut into the last scene and we see Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei were all ready to jump into the battle at any moment. But they were happy about seeing them able to handle themselves, technically speaking, right? And Zoro was even impressed at Momo. They all felt Shanks' hockey as well, and were very impressed, and somehow Luffy just feels a familiar face, which is left open vaguely whether he would identify it as Shanks or not, but to me, it seems obvious. I love how in that one scene being Shanks using the Conqueror's hockey, Oda managed so many different things at once. He gives us a glimpse at the extent of Shanks' power. He teases the whole telepathic communication thing further, and he also teases how near the reunion between Luffy and Shanks is. It's as if Shanks is actively letting Luffy know you're close, or something along the lines like that. Furthermore, I think this chapter more than solidifies Shanks is definitely not evil. Not only because he is actively going against the Navy, because plenty of villains do that too, and that doesn't mean that they're good, but he genuinely cares for and will take care of the new era. Very specifically, Luffy, Momo, Hiyori, and as we saw in the silhouette, Uta. Although I don't believe that Uta will play a role in the story, yes, she is technically brought into the canon here, but I'm of the strong belief that the only reason for this is for promotion. I don't believe Oda has any intentions of cementing her as a character in the story. Anyways, that's all for today's folks. This week's chapter was yet another certified peak fiction in my opinion. One Piece, it's at its best. Boys and girls, welcome to the end game. Welcome to One Piece.